Welcome to Rain and History. For the next 2 hours, we're going to live an entire day in the life of a Benedictine monk in the year 1250. Not a famous monk, not an abbot or prior, just an ordinary brother in an ordinary monastery somewhere in England. His name was Brother Thomas, though that hardly matters. What matters is his routine, the bells, the prayers, the work, the silence, the meals, the cold, the rhythm of a life measured not in years, but in hours of the day. We'll experience every moment of his day, from the middle of the night when the first bell rings, to the evening when he finally returns to his straw mattress. We'll feel the cold stone floors beneath his feet. We'll hear the shuffling of robes in the dark church. We'll smell the bread baking in the monastery kitchen. We'll understand the weight of silence, the comfort of routine, and the strange peace of a life with almost no choices. This isn't about kings or battles or the grand sweep of history. This is about what it actually felt like to wake up on a Tuesday morning in 1250 when you owned nothing, spoke rarely, and spent most of your waking hours either praying or copying books. Let's begin in the darkness. It's 2 a.m., and somewhere in the monastery, a bell is about to ring. The bell rings in complete darkness, not the cheerful ringing of a church bell you might imagine, but a slow, measured tolling. One strike, pause, another strike, pause. It echoes through the stone corridors of the dormitory where Brother Thomas has been sleeping for approximately 4 hours.
The biggest beefsteak.
He doesn't wake with a start. This happens every night. His body has learned to expect it. Even in sleep, some part of his mind was waiting for the bell. He opens his eyes. Complete darkness. In winter, it's absolutely black. In summer, there might be the faintest suggestion of moonlight through the small, unglazed window at the end of the dormitory. Brother Thomas sleeps in what's called a dorter, the monks' dormitory. It's a long, narrow room on the second floor of the monastery, directly above the chapter house. There are no separate cells. 30 monks sleep here, each on a simple wooden cot with a straw-filled mattress, one wool blanket, and a pillow also stuffed with straw. The beds are arranged in 2 rows along the walls, about 6 feet apart, with a narrow walkway down the center. Thomas sleeps fully clothed. This is winter, and the dormitory is unheated. He wears his habit, a long wool tunic dyed black, reaching to his ankles. Over this, his scapula, a sleeveless garment that hangs over the front and back. And over everything, his cowl, a hooded outer robe. He's wearing wool hose on his feet, and even so, his toes are cold. They're always cold from November to March. He doesn't need to dress. He simply sits up, swings his legs off the cot, and stands. Around him, in the darkness, he hears the same sounds. 30 other men doing exactly the same thing. The creak of wooden bed frames, the rustle of wool, the shuffle of feet on wooden floorboards. No one speaks. The rule of silence is absolute from after compline at 8 p.m. until after prime the next morning. No one has spoken in this room for 6 hours, and no one will for another 6. One monk, the hebdomadary, the monk assigned to wake the community this week, moves down the center aisle with a small oil lamp. It's the only light. Thomas can see the shadows of his brothers as they stand, as they reach for their night shoes, simple leather slippers, because the stone floors of the church will be even colder than the wooden floors here. They form a line automatically without direction. This happens every night. The same line, the same order, determined by seniority of profession. How long each man has been a monk. Thomas has been here 7 years, so he's roughly in the middle. The newest novices are at the back. The oldest monks Some here for 40 or 50 years are at the front.
Dish.
The line begins to move. Down the night stairs, a stone staircase that leads directly from the dormitory into the church. 28 steps. Thomas knows because he's counted them thousands of times. His hand finds the rope handrail, thick hemp, worn smooth by countless hands before his. The stone steps are uneven, worn down in the middle from centuries of feet. He keeps his left hand on the wall. The stones are always slightly damp. They emerge into the church. It's vast and dark. The only light comes from a single oil lamp near the altar, burning all night so that the sacred space is never completely dark. The lamp casts long shadows up the stone columns that support the vaulted ceiling somewhere overhead in the blackness. The brothers can't see the ceiling, but they know it's there, 40 feet above them, covered in painted scenes of the Last Judgment that they can only see during daylight hours. They move to their places in the choir stalls, 2 rows of wooden seats facing each other across the choir, which is the eastern section of the church, separated from the nave by a carved wooden screen. Each monk has an assigned seat, again by seniority. Thomas's seat is a wooden bench with a high back and a misericord, a small wooden ledge on the underside of the hinged seat. When the seat is up, he can lean against this ledge during the long periods of standing. It's not sitting, which would be too comfortable, but it's not quite standing either. It's enough. Everyone is in place now. The church is absolutely silent, except for the shuffle of the last brothers finding their seats and the distant sound of rain on the tile roof. It's always raining in this memory of medieval England, or so it seems. The smell is stone and damp wool and old incense and candle smoke. And then the abbot's voice from his seat near the altar begins the office. Domine, labia mea apiris. Lord, open my lips. His voice is old and calm and utterly familiar. Every monk in this room could say these words in his sleep, because they've said them thousands of times. Etos meum annuntiabit laudum tuam, and my mouth shall declare your praise. The community responds as one voice. Deus in adjutorium meum intende. God, come to my aid. Their voices echo in the stone space. 30 men speaking Latin in the dark. What follows is the office of Matins, the longest of the 8 daily prayer services. It will last approximately an hour. The monks will stand, sit, and stand again according to ancient patterns. They will chant psalms, long passages from the Book of Psalms, divided between the 2 sides of the choir, alternating verses.
Very good.
One side chants a verse, the other responds, back and forth. The rhythm is hypnotic. Brother Thomas knows all of this by heart. He learned it during his novitiate, his first year in the monastery. The psalms rotate on a weekly cycle. This is Tuesday of the 2nd week, so they're chanting Psalms 25 through 32. He doesn't need a book. In the darkness, he couldn't read one anyway. The words simply come, automatic as breathing. Ad te Domine, levavi animam meum. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. The Latin rolls off his tongue. He's not thinking about the meaning. That's not the point at 2 a.m. The point is the act itself, the offering of voice, of time, of attention, in the darkness before dawn. Between the psalms, there are readings. A monk assigned to this duty reads from a large illuminated manuscript on a lectern near the altar, where the lamplight is strongest. He reads from the Church Fathers, St. Augustine usually, or St. Gregory, long theological passages about grace and sin and the nature of God. The Latin is complex, elegant, sometimes difficult to follow even for men who use it daily. But they listen, standing in the darkness, hands hidden in the wide sleeves of their habits for warmth. The church is cold. It's always cold. In summer, it's pleasantly cool. In winter, it's bone-deep cold that makes your jaw tight when you try to chant. Brother Thomas can see his breath in the lamplight when he exhales. His feet, even in the leather slippers, are numb. He shifts his weight slightly from foot to foot, a tiny movement, the only motion allowed. An hour passes. The psalms, the readings, the responses, all flow together into a kind of timeless present. It's not boring exactly. Boredom implies wanting to be elsewhere. Thomas has nowhere else to be. This is his life. This is what he does. This is who he is. Finally, the office concludes. Benedicamus Domino. Let us bless the Lord. The response, Deo gratias. Thanks be to God. And then silence again. The monks file out, back up the night stairs to the dormitory, back to their cots. They have approximately 2 hours before the next bell. This is the only time in the day when they return to bed. They lie down, pull the wool blankets up, and try to get warm enough to sleep. Brother Thomas lies on his back, hands folded on his chest. He can hear the rain more clearly now. It's coming down steadily, drumming on the roof tiles. He closes his eyes. In 2 hours, the bell will ring again for Lord's, the morning office. But for now, sleep. The bell rings again at dawn, or what would be dawn if you could see it. In December, in England, dawn comes late, around 7:30 a.m. But the monastic schedule doesn't change with the seasons. Lord's is said at approximately 4:30 a.m. year-round. In summer, it's already light. In winter, it's still fully dark. The process is the same as matins. The bell, the silent rising, the line forming, the descent down the night stairs, the return to the choir stalls. But this time, Thomas is more tired. 2 hours of sleep, then woken again. His eyes feel gritty. His neck is stiff from the cold. But none of this matters. The office must be said. Lord's is shorter than matins, perhaps 30 minutes. It follows the same pattern. Psalms, readings, responses. The psalms for Tuesday Lord's are Psalms 50, 62, and 89. Miserere me, Deus. Have mercy on me, O God. Thomas's voice joins the others, all of them saying the same words they'll say next Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that, and every Tuesday for the rest of their lives. When Lord's ends, there's a brief pause, 15 minutes perhaps, while the sacrist and his assistants prepare the altar for the first Mass of the day. This is the only time when the monks are allowed to return briefly to the warming room, a small chamber near the cloister where a fire burns during the winter months. It's one of only 2 heated rooms in the entire monastery. The other is the infirmary for sick brothers. The warming room is crowded, 30 monks trying to get near the fire. Thomas finds a spot near the back, stretches his hands toward the heat. The fire is small, not enough to make the room truly warm, but enough to take the worst edge off the cold. No one speaks, of course. The great silence is still in effect. But there's a kind of companionship in the shared warmth, the shared cold, the shared routine. After 15 minutes, the bell rings for prime, the third office of the day. It's approximately 5 a.m. now. Still dark outside, though in summer, there would be the first suggestions of grey light in the eastern windows. Prime is brief, 20 minutes. More psalms, Psalms 117, 118, and 119. The monks chant, sit, stand, chant again. The rhythm continues. After prime, something changes. The great silence ends. As the office concludes and the monks file out of the choir, the abbot says, Benedicite, a blessing.
anything you
This
don't have.
is the signal. The brothers may now speak, though only for necessary communication about work.
Trade.
No idle conversation, no gossip, but practical words are permitted.
Dish.
Pass me that tool. The rain has stopped. The roof leaks in the west cloister.
Hey.
It's still dark, but the monastic day has begun. What follows is the morning work period. 2 hours of labor before the next meal. Brother Thomas is a copyist. His work assignment is in the scriptorium, the room where books are made. Not every monk does this. Some work in the fields, plowing and planting. Others in the bakery, the brewery, the smithy, the carpenter's shop, the infirmary. The monastery is self-sufficient, so every necessary trade exists within its walls. But Thomas's hands are good with a pen. His Latin is excellent, and he has good eyes, so he copies books. The scriptorium is on the south side of the cloister, where it catches the most natural light. Even so, at 5:30 a.m. in December, there is no natural light. The room is lit by oil lamps, expensive, rationed carefully. Each copyist has one lamp on his desk. The desks are arranged in a single row along the wall with the windows. In 6 weeks, when the days begin to lengthen, those windows will provide enough light to work. But now, lamplight must suffice. Thomas enters the scriptorium and goes to his desk. It's the same desk he's used for 7 years. A slanted wooden surface at chest height, designed for standing work. There's a high stool behind it, but he rarely sits.
Very good.
Sitting makes you sleepy. Standing keeps you alert, which is necessary when you're copying Latin texts word by word, letter by letter, where a single error can change the meaning of a sacred text.
The biggest beefsteak.
On his desk, under a cloth to protect it from dust, is his current project, a copy of St. Jerome's commentary on the Gospel of Matthew. He's been working on this manuscript for 4 months. He's currently on page 87 of approximately 200. At his current pace, he'll finish in another 4 months. Then it will go to the illuminator, who will add decorated initial letters and margin illustrations. Then to the binder. The entire process, from blank parchment to finished book, will take about a year. When it's done, it will go into the monastery library, where it will sit on a shelf with 300 other books, the accumulated textual wealth of the community. Thomas removes the cloth, folds it carefully, and sets it aside. The manuscript is beautiful, even in its unfinished state. The parchment is creamy white vellum, made from calfskin, prepared by the monastery's parchmenter. It's cut into sheets, measuring roughly 12 by 18 inches. These sheets are folded in half to create pages, then gathered into quires, bundles of folded sheets that will eventually be sewn together to form the book. Thomas is currently working on the 5th quire. The page before him contains Latin text, written in a careful Gothic bookhand, letters formed with precision, each one taking several strokes of the pen. The text is arranged in 2 columns per page, with wide margins for later decoration. Red ink marks the beginnings of chapters and important sections. Black ink for the body of the text. Thomas has his tools laid out. A quill pen, several actually, in different states of sharpness. A penknife for sharpening and cutting new quills. A pumice stone for smoothing the parchment and removing errors by gentle abrasion. A straight edge for ruling lines. 2 inkwells, 1 black, 1 red. A small dish of water for diluting ink if it's too thick. A piece of cloth for wiping the pen. He begins his day by preparing a new quill. He selects a goose feather from the bundle on his desk, checks it for flaws, splits in the shaft, damage to the tip, and finding it acceptable, picks up his penknife. With quick, practiced movements, he cuts the quill. First, stripping away the barbs near the end, leaving a clean shaft. Then, cutting the tip at an angle to create the writing edge. Then, splitting the tip very slightly, just a small vertical slit to help the ink flow. Finally, sharpening the edge with small, precise cuts. This process takes about 5 minutes. A quill will stay sharp for perhaps 2 pages of writing, then it needs resharpening. Thomas will go through 3 or 4 quills during a morning's work. Some copyists make their quills overly sharp and wear them out quickly. Thomas has learned to find the balance. Sharp enough to make crisp letters, but not so sharp that it digs into the parchment and splutters ink. He dips the quill in the black ink, taps it gently against the rim of the inkwell to remove excess, and begins to write. His exemplar, the original manuscript he's copying from, sits on a lectern to his left, positioned to catch the lamplight. His eyes move from the exemplar to his own page. Read a phrase, remember it, write it, check it, read the next phrase. Matthias ex Judea, Matthew from Judea. His hand moves across the page, forming each letter. The scratch of the quill on parchment is the dominant sound in the room. There are 5 other copyists working this morning, and the sound of 6 quills creates a gentle, rhythmic scratching, like mice in the walls, one brother once said, before remembering that idle speech is forbidden and returning to silence. The work is slow. On a good day, Thomas can copy 2 pages. On a difficult day, with complex Latin, or when he's tired, perhaps 1 page. 2 pages doesn't sound like much, but consider, each page contains approximately 1,000 words. Each letter must be formed perfectly. The spacing must be exact. The lines must be straight. The ink must be consistent in darkness. Any significant error means scraping away the ink with a pumice stone and rewriting that section. His hand begins to tire after about an hour. The muscles in his forearm, in his fingers, protesting the tiny, controlled movements. But he continues. This is his work. This is his obedience. This is his contribution to the preservation of knowledge. Around him, the other copyists work in similar silence, similar focus. Brother Andrew, to his left, is copying a psalter. Brother Martin is working on a chronicle of the monastery's history. Brother John, the most skilled illuminator, is adding gold leaf to capital letters in a completed gospel book. Delicate work with tiny brushes and sheets of gold thinner than paper. Time passes strangely in the scriptorium. Sometimes an hour feels like 15 minutes. Sometimes 15 minutes feels endless. Thomas loses himself in the words, the letters, the rhythm. Cum esset desponsata mater ejus Maria Joseph. When his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph. The story is familiar, but the act of copying it, letter by letter, makes it new. At 7:30 a.m., the bell rings for terce, the 4th office of the day. The copyists cap their inkwells carefully, clean their quills, cover their manuscripts with cloth, and file out of the scriptorium toward the church. The work continues later. For now, prayer calls. Terce is brief, 15 minutes in the church, chanting the Psalms for the 3rd hour of the day. By now, if it's winter and overcast, there's a grey light outside. Not sunlight, not yet, but enough to see by. The church windows are becoming visible. Small, pointed arch windows with no glass, just wooden shutters that are open except in the worst weather. The grey light makes the stone walls visible, the painted columns, the vaulted ceiling overhead. After terce, the community gathers in the chapter house for the daily chapter meeting. This is a square stone room on the ground floor, adjacent to the dormitory stairs. It's called the chapter house because during this meeting, the abbot reads a chapter from the Rule of Saint Benedict, the 6th century text that governs every aspect of monastic life. The monks sit on stone benches built into the walls. They sit in order of seniority, forming a square. The abbot sits at the head, in a slightly elevated chair. To his right sits the prior, his second in command. The monks who've been here longest sit nearest the abbot. The newer monks and novices sit furthest away. The abbot, Father William, is in his 60s, white-haired, with deep lines around his eyes from decades of squinting at books. He's been abbot for 20 years, a monk here for 40. He knows every man in this room. He probably remembers admitting most of them. He begins. Let us listen to the Holy Rule. He opens the massive book before him. The Rule, written in Latin, in a manuscript copied here 200 years ago. The pages are yellowed, the corners soft from handling. He finds his place and reads Chapter 48, on the daily manual labor. Idleness is the enemy of the soul. Therefore, the brothers should be occupied at certain times in manual labor and at other fixed hours in sacred reading. The chapter continues, laying out the daily schedule that the community already knows by heart. Work from prime until terce, reading until sext, work again until none. The times vary slightly by season. More work hours in summer when days are long, more reading in winter when light is scarce. After the reading comes the business of the day. The abbot announces work assignments for the week. Brother Thomas, continue in the scriptorium. Brother Paul, you're assigned to the brewery with Brother Richard. Brother Stephen, the cellar master, needs assistance with the wine inventory. The assignments are made based on the monastery's needs, not the monks' preferences. If the barley needs harvesting, scholars go to the fields. If books need copying, field workers go to the scriptorium. The work is communal, and every man does what's needed. Then comes the difficult part, the proclamation of faults. Any monk who has broken a rule or committed an offense is required to stand and confess it publicly. The offenses are usually minor: speaking during the great silence, being late to an office, breaking a tool through carelessness, eating outside of meal times, complaining about the food. Today, Brother Mark stands. He's a younger monk, here only 3 years. Father Abbot, I confess that yesterday I spoke an idle word in the cloister. I was frustrated that my hoe had broken, and I said, "This is poorly made." I spoke in anger, not necessity. I ask forgiveness and penance. The abbot nods gravely. Your confession is noted, Brother Mark. For penance, you will prostrate yourself at the church entrance before Vespers this evening, so that the brothers must step over you as they enter. This will remind you of humility. Do you accept this penance? Brother Mark bows his head. Yes, Father Abbot. Thank you. This might seem harsh, but it's actually light as penances go. For serious offenses, striking another monk, stealing, persistent disobedience, the penalties range from exclusion from meals to beating with a rod to excommunication from the community. But these are rare. Most monks live their entire lives without serious infractions. The routine is so deeply ingrained that rebellion becomes almost unthinkable. The chapter meeting concludes with a reading from the Martyrology, the list of saints commemorated on this day. Brother James, the cantor, reads in a clear voice, "On this day, the 2nd of December, we commemorate Saint Bibiana, virgin and martyr, who suffered under Julian the Apostate. Brief lives of 3 or 4 saints. Then, let us pray for our benefactors, living and dead." A moment of silence. Then the abbot, "Let us go in peace." The monks rise and leave the chapter house. It's now approximately 8 a.m. The next office sext is at noon. Between now and then, work. Brother Thomas returns to the scriptorium. The morning light is now strong enough that he extinguishes his oil lamp to conserve it. The window behind his desk admits a cold grey light, perfect for copywork. Warm light, like firelight or candlelight, can make you sleepy. Cold light keeps you alert. He uncovers his manuscript and picks up where he left off. His quill needs resharpening. It's beginning to split and scatter ink. He takes up his penknife, makes the necessary cuts, dips the quill, and continues. Antequam convenerant, before they came together. The gospel narrative unfolds under his hand. The hours pass in near silence. The only sounds, quills scratching, pages turning, the occasional cough, the rain still falling outside. In the winter, this work is cold. Thomas's fingers become stiff. He has to periodically stop and flex them, blow warm breath on them. In summer, the work is warm and soporific, and monks sometimes fall asleep standing at their desks. Around 11 a.m., Thomas notices a problem. The ink in his well has thickened. This happens. The water evaporates, the ink becomes less fluid, and it produces letters that are too dark and thick. He'll need to add water, but not too much, or the letters will be too faint and will fade over time. This is one of the 100 small judgments a copyist makes every day. He adds 3 drops of water from his water dish, stirs the ink with a clean quill, tests it on a scrap of parchment kept for this purpose, too thin. He lets it sit for a few minutes, lets some water evaporate, tests again. Better. He returns to work. At noon, the bell rings for sext. Thomas has completed 1 full page this morning. A good result. He covers his work, caps his inkwell, and joins the line of brothers heading to the church. Sext is another brief office, perhaps 20 minutes. The Psalms for the 6th hour. More chanting, more standing, more Latin words offered into the cold air of the church. Thomas's voice is hoarse from chanting. They've already sung 5 offices today, and there are 3 more to come before bed. After sext, finally, dinner, the main meal of the day. The monks file into the refectory, the dining hall, in their customary line. The refectory is a long stone room with high windows located on the west side of the cloister. Down the center runs a long oak table where most of the brothers sit on benches. At the far end, a raised table where the abbot and senior monks sit. Before anyone eats, there's a ritual. All stand behind their seats. The abbot rings a small handbell. Everyone bows. The hebdomadary, the monk assigned to serve this week, reads the blessing, Oculi omnium intersperant, Domine. The eyes of all wait upon you, O Lord. The response, Et tu das illis escam in tempore opportuno. And you give them their food in due season. Another bow, then all sit. The meal is eaten in complete silence, except for one voice, the reader. A monk stands at a raised pulpit on the side wall and reads aloud while the others eat. Today, he's reading from the Confessions of St. Augustine. The Latin is dense and philosophical. Most of the monks aren't really listening to the meaning, but the sound of the voice, the familiar rhythm, creates a meditative atmosphere. The food arrives. The servers, all younger monks assigned this duty on rotation, carry in large wooden bowls and place them at intervals down the table. There are no individual plates. Each group of 4 monks shares a bowl. Thomas sits with brothers Andrew, Martin, and Paul. A bowl is placed before them. Today's meal, thick pottage, a porridge made from barley, onions, turnips, and beans, cooked slowly all morning in a large cauldron in the kitchen. It's seasoned with salt and herbs. sage probably, and thyme from the monastery garden. It's hot, which is wonderful after a cold morning. It's also fairly bland, but that's intentional. The rule warns against elaborate food that might excite the appetite and lead to gluttony. With the pottage comes bread, a loaf for every 4 monks. The bread is made from a mixture of wheat and rye, dark and dense, with a thick crust. Brother Andrew, the most senior at their section of table, breaks the loaf into 4 pieces with his hands.
Very good.
No knives on the table. They're not needed and might be used as weapons in a moment of anger, unlikely as that is. Each monk also receives a cup of ale. This isn't the strong ale served in taverns, but small beer, weak, barely alcoholic, brewed in the monastery's own brewery. It's safer to drink than water, which can carry disease. The ale is stored in wooden casks in the cellar and drawn fresh each day. Thomas picks up his wooden spoon, the only eating utensil provided, and eats slowly. The rule counsels moderation in all things, including eating. Gluttony is a sin, but the food is hot and filling, and after 7 hours of work and prayer, it's deeply welcome. The pottage is thick enough that it requires chewing. Bits of onion, chunks of turnip. The texture is rough, earthy. This is peasant food, and the monks eat it gratefully. The reader's voice continues in the background. Tarde te amavi, pulchritudo tam antiqua et tam nova. Late have I loved you, beauty so old and so new. Augustine's mystical theology washes over them as they eat. There's a rhythm to the eating. Thomas takes a spoonful, chews slowly, swallows. A piece of bread, a sip of ale, another spoonful. The bowl is shared, so there's an unspoken coordination. You don't eat faster than your brothers.
Very good.
You don't take more than your share. It's all practiced, unconscious cooperation. After about 20 minutes, the bowls are empty. The servers clear them away and bring the second course, fruit. In summer, this might be fresh apples or pears from the monastery orchard. In winter, it's dried apples, leathery and sweet, preserved from the autumn harvest. Each monk receives 3 pieces. Thomas eats them slowly, chewing thoroughly. The sweetness is a rare pleasure. Finally, the abbot rings his handbell again. All stand. The reader stops mid-sentence. He'll resume tomorrow from this exact point. The hebdomadary reads the final grace. Benedissimus te, Domine, et munera tua. We bless you, Lord, and your gifts. The response, Deo gratias. Thanks be to God. The meal is over. From sitting down to standing up, 30 minutes. Efficient, structured, silent, except for the reading. This is how monks have eaten dinner for centuries. This is how they'll continue eating it long after Brother Thomas is dead. After dinner, there's a brief period, perhaps 15 minutes, when the monks may walk in the cloister. This is the closest thing to recreation they'll have all day. The cloister is a covered walkway that runs around all 4 sides of a central courtyard. The courtyard itself is a garden, grass, a few fruit trees, herb beds tended by the infirmarian. In the center, a stone fountain, though the water is still in winter. The monks walk slowly, in pairs or small groups, hands tucked into their sleeves for warmth. Conversation is permitted now, but it should be edifying. About scripture, about the saints, about the work. Brother Thomas walks with Brother Andrew, who is 20 years his senior and serves as an informal mentor. They walk in silence for a moment, their footsteps echoing on the stone paving. Then Brother Andrew speaks, his voice quiet. Your hand is improving, Brother Thomas. The last pages you completed, the letters are very even. That comes with time. Thomas nods, grateful for the comment. Praise is rare in monastic life. When it comes, it means something. They complete one circuit of the cloister. As they begin a second, Brother Andrew adds, "But watch your descenders on the letter G. You're making them too long. They should be proportional to the ascenders on the letter L. Use your exemplar as a guide." Thomas nods again. This is useful correction. He'll watch for it when he returns to work. The 15 minutes pass quickly. The bell rings, not the church bell, but a smaller handbell rung by the sacristan in the cloister. This signals the end of recreation. The monks return to their afternoon work assignments.
Very good.
Back to the scriptorium. The afternoon light is different from morning light, warmer in tone, coming from a different angle through the windows. Thomas finds his place, uncovers his manuscript, examines his morning's work with fresh eyes. He sees what Brother Andrew meant about the descenders. The letter G in Virgo and Joseph and genealogia, all slightly too long, extending too far below the baseline. He makes a mental note. He picks up his quill, sharpens it, and continues. Cum esset desponsata, mater ejus Maria Joseph, antequam convenirent inventa, est in utero habens de Spiritus Sancto. When his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. The familiar story. Thomas has copied this passage before in other manuscripts. He'll copy it again. The words don't change. The afternoon work period is longer than the morning, from approximately 1 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. The scriptorium is quiet, except for the usual sounds: quills, pages, breathing. Outside, the rain continues. Inside, the work continues. Letter by letter, word by word, the texts are preserved. Thomas's hand is tired now. 7 hours of copywork in one day is substantial. His fingers ache. There's a callus on his middle finger where the quill rests. Thickened skin from years of this same motion. His back aches from standing. His eyes burn from concentrating on small letters in varying light. But there's a satisfaction in it. At the end of the day, he can see what he's accomplished. 2 pages, 2,000 words preserved. 2 pages that will last centuries if they're cared for. Long after he's dead, someone will read these words that pass through his hand. There's immortality in that, of a kind. At 3:30 p.m., the bell rings for none, the 7th office. Thomas has completed page 88. He's now 1 page ahead of his morning starting point. Progress, steady and measurable. He covers his work, caps his ink, and heads to the church. None is brief. 15 minutes. The Psalms for the 9th hour. The same pattern. Standing, sitting, chanting, listening. Thomas's voice is very hoarse now. 8 offices in one day means hours of chanting. His throat is dry despite the ale at dinner. He'll be grateful for the cup of wine that comes with supper. After none, there's a work period, but shorter. Only 90 minutes until Vespers at 5 p.m. Thomas doesn't return to the scriptorium. His eyes are too tired for close work. Instead, he's assigned to help in the woodshed, splitting logs for the warming room fire. The woodshed is a 3-sided structure on the north edge of the monastery grounds, open to the weather on one side. Stacks of logs cut from the monastery's woodland. Thomas finds Brother Paul already there, axe in hand, splitting a thick oak log. The work is physical, warming. After hours of stillness in the scriptorium, it feels good to move, to swing an axe, to feel muscles working. They work in silence, though speech would be permitted. The rhythm is meditative. Place the log on the chopping block, lift the axe, swing down, split. The crack of wood, the smell of fresh split oak. Stack the pieces. Repeat. In 90 minutes, they split perhaps 20 logs. enough to keep the warming room fire going for several days. It's getting dark now. In December, at 4:30 p.m., the light is already fading. Thomas can see his breath. His hands, even with the work, are cold. Oak is hard wood. It doesn't split easily. Sometimes the axe gets stuck and he has to work it free, but the pile grows. At 5 p.m., the church bell rings for Vespers. Thomas and Brother Paul put down their axes, brush the wood chips from their habits, and head to the church. Their hands smell of oak sap. Their habits are damp from sweat despite the cold. Vespers, the evening office, is the longest service besides Matins.
Very good.
It will last about 45 minutes. By now, the church is completely dark, except for candles. Many more than at the night offices. For Vespers, the church is lit properly, almost festively. Candles on the altar, candles in sconces on the pillars, candles in the choir stalls. The flickering light makes the painted columns seem to move. The shadows dance. This is the most beautiful office of the day, Thomas thinks. Not the most solemn. That's Matins. Not the most joyful. That's Lauds, when dawn breaks. But Vespers has a particular beauty, a kind of peaceful exhaustion. The day's work is done. The night hasn't yet begun. There's a suspended quality to this hour, this light, this chanting. The Psalms for Tuesday Vespers are particularly lovely. Psalms 109 through 113. Dixit Dominus Domino meo, sede a dextris meis. The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand. The words are martial, triumphant, but chanted slowly, they become something else. Meditative, almost tender. Thomas's favorite moment in Vespers is the Magnificat, Mary's prayer from the Gospel of Luke. It's sung every evening, just before the office ends. The cantor begins it, his voice rising alone in the candlelit space. Magnificat anima mea Dominum.
Very good.
My soul magnifies the Lord. Then the choir joins, Et exultavit spiritus meus in Deo salutare meo. And my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior. There's something about these words, sung at this hour, in this light, after a full day of work and prayer, that moves Thomas every time. He's not an emotional man. Decades of monastic discipline have taught him to moderate his feelings. But this moment, this song, always touches something in him. The Magnificat continues, verse after verse. The candles flicker. The monks' voices rise and fall. Deposuit potentes desced, et exaltavit humili. He has put down the mighty from their seats and has exalted the humble. Words about reversal, about God's justice, about hope for the poor. Words that give meaning to their own poverty, their own humble life. Vespers concludes. The abbot gives the blessing, Benedicat et custodiat nos omnipotens et misericors Dominus. May the Almighty and merciful Lord bless and keep us. The response, Amen. The monks file out of the choir. There's now a brief period before supper, perhaps 15 minutes. Many brothers return to the warming room, seeking a few moments of warmth before the evening meal. Supper is lighter than dinner. The monks return to the refectory, go through the same ritual.
Very good.
The blessing, the sitting, the reading. But tonight's meal is simpler. Bread, cheese, and a thin vegetable broth made from the leavings of dinner's pottage. Each monk also receives a cup of wine, red, slightly sour, made from the monastery's vineyard. The reader tonight is continuing Augustine's Confessions, picking up where he left off at midday. The Latin flows over them as they eat. Bread broken, cheese divided, broth sipped from wooden bowls. The meal takes perhaps 20 minutes. After supper, there's a period for reading, about an hour. This is sacred reading. Lectio Divina, not study, but meditation through text. The monks go to the warming room where the fire is burning and the books are kept on shelves. Each monk selects a book, usually something devotional. Lives of the Saints, Psalms, the Gospels, spiritual treatises. Thomas takes down a copy of the life of Saint Benedict, the founder of their order. He's read it many times, but it's a comfort. He finds a spot near the fire, not close enough to get warm. Those spots are for the oldest monks, but near enough to see by firelight. He opens the book, finds a page at random, and begins to read. The reading isn't rushed. It's not about finishing the book or learning information. It's about letting the words sink in, chewing on them, letting them speak. Thomas might read 5 pages in an hour. He might read 1 page 5 times. The point is, the encounter with the sacred text, not the completion of it. The warming room is silent, except for the fire's crackle and the occasional turn of a page. 30 monks reading in quiet companionship. Outside, it's fully dark now. Inside, the firelight creates a small circle of warmth in the vast cold of the monastery. This is perhaps the most peaceful hour of the day. The work is done. The last office hasn't yet come. For 1 hour, they simply sit, warm, and read. No one speaks, but there's a palpable sense of community in the shared silence, the shared warmth, the shared love of these texts. At 7:45 p.m., the bell rings. Time for Compline, the final office. Compline is the completion of the day. The word means to complete. It's brief, perhaps 20 minutes, and it has a particular character. This is the office where the monastery prepares for sleep, for the silence of night, for the symbolic death that sleep represents. The brothers enter the dark church. Fewer candles now than at Vespers, just enough light to see. They take their places in the choir. The abbot begins, Fratres, sobri estoti et vigilate. Brothers, be sober and watch. A warning, a call to vigilance, because the night is dangerous, spiritually, if not physically. The psalms for Compline are always the same, every night of the year. This repetition is intentional. Psalms 4, 90, and 133. In pace, in idipsum, dormium, et requiescam. In peace, in the same, I shall sleep and rest. Words about security, about trust in God's protection through the dangerous hours of darkness. Then comes the great hymn of Compline, Te lucis ante terminum. To thee before the close of day. It's sung slowly, reverently. Procul resident somnia, et noctium phantasmata. Far off, let idle dreams depart, and nightly phantoms flee. A prayer against nightmares, against the fears that come in darkness. The office concludes not with a dismissal, but with a blessing. The monks remain standing in their stalls. The abbot raises his hand. Benedicat nos omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus. May Almighty God bless us, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The monks bow, Amen. Then the Salve Regina, the Hail Holy Queen, an anthem to the Virgin Mary. The cantor begins it, his voice lone in the darkness. The choir joins. It's a haunting melody, modal, ancient. Salve Regina, Mater Misericordiae. Hail Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy. The last song of the day, sung to the monastery's patroness, asking for her protection through the night. As the anthem ends, something remarkable happens. The abbot sprinkles the community with holy water, walking down the choir stalls with a brush dipped in a vessel, flicking drops of blessed water over the monks. It's a final blessing, a purification before sleep. Thomas feels the cold drops hit his face. his hands. He closes his eyes. The day is complete. And then the great silence begins. From this moment until after prime tomorrow morning, no one will speak. Not a word, not a whisper. Complete silence for the next 10 hours. The monks file out of the church in silence. The sacristan extinguishes the candles, one by one. The church falls into darkness. The brothers walk to the dormitory, up the stone stairs, each man to his bed. In the dark, they can barely see. Thomas finds his cot by feel, by memory. He's been sleeping here for 7 years. He sits, removes his night shoes, lies down in his habit, pulls the thin wool blanket up. Around him, the same sounds. 30 men settling for sleep. The silence is profound.
Very good.
Not peaceful exactly, heavy, weighted. The silence of a tomb. No one coughs, no one shifts. Everyone lies still, waiting for sleep to come. Brother Thomas lies on his back,
the biggest
hands folded on his chest, eyes open in the darkness. Sleep doesn't come immediately. It rarely does. The transition from the activity of the day to the stillness of night takes time. His mind is still working, still processing. He reviews the day as he does every night. This is part of his practice, an examination of conscience. Did he work well? Yes. 2 pages completed. Good work. Did he pray well? Harder to say. His mind wandered during sext, he remembers. He was thinking about a difficult word in the manuscript, wondering whether it should be gratia or gloria. That was a distraction, a failure of attention. He'll confess it tomorrow at chapter. Did he love his brothers? This is the hardest question. Love, in the monastic sense, doesn't mean warm feelings. It means patience, forbearance, putting others first. Did he do that? He's not sure. At dinner, he noticed that Brother Paul took more than his share from the bread. It annoyed him. He didn't say anything, but he felt it. Is that failure to love, or is it just noticing? These questions don't have easy answers. The spiritual life is subtle, complicated.
Very good.
Thomas has been a monk for 7 years, and he's still learning. The brothers who've been here 40 years are still learning. There's no graduation, no completion. Just the daily practice, the daily failure, the daily beginning again. He thinks about the manuscript he's copying, St. Jerome's commentary. Jerome was a fierce man, brilliant, difficult, given to anger and harsh words, but also devoted to God, devoted to truth, devoted to the preservation of Scripture. Thomas identifies with him somehow. The long hours bent over texts, the precision required, the sense that this work matters. Outside, the rain continues. Thomas can hear it on the roof tiles, a steady drumming that's been the background music of this entire day. In summer, he'll hear owls. In spring, nightingales. In winter, just rain, just wind, just the sounds of water and air moving over stone. He thinks about time, the strange quality of time in the monastery. On one level, every day is the same bells, the same prayers, the same work, the same meals. Nothing changes, but on another level, time moves. He's been here 7 years. When he arrived, he was 23. Now, he's 30. Someday, he'll be 40, 50, 60, if he lives that long. Someday, he'll be one of the old monks sitting closest to the fire, his hands too shaky for copywork, assigned to the garden or the library, or given the job of teaching novices. Someday, he'll die, probably here, in this room, in a bed like this. The brothers will gather around, chanting the prayers for the dying. His body will be laid out in the chapter house. The community will sing the office of the dead. He'll be buried in the monastery cemetery under a simple stone that says, Brother Thomas died year. pray for his soul. And another monk will take his place at the scriptorium desk, copying the same texts, forming the same letters. This thought isn't depressing. It's oddly comforting. He's part of something larger than himself, something that was here before he was born and will continue after he dies. The chain of prayer, the chain of work, stretching back centuries and forward into an unknown future. He hears Brother Andrew, in the next bed, begin to snore softly. Brother Martin, somewhere in the darkness, shifts position, and his bed frame creaks. These small sounds in the great silence. Proof of life, proof of presence. Thomas's eyelids are heavy now. Sleep is coming. His last conscious thought is the first line of tomorrow's psalms, the ones they'll chant at matins in a few hours. Ad te Domine, levavi animam meum. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. The words form in his mind, and then he's asleep.
Don't hurt yourself.
One day, that's what we've just experienced. 24 hours in the life of Brother Thomas, a Benedictine monk in the year 1250. But to truly understand monastic life, we need to zoom out and see the larger rhythms. Because one day is like the next, yes, but they also fit into patterns, weeks, seasons, years. The week follows a pattern. 7 days, named for the planets and gods of the Roman calendar, though the monks think of them as numbered feria, second feria, third feria, and so on, with Sunday as the Lord's Day. The Psalms rotate on a weekly cycle. The readings at chapter rotate weekly. Certain work assignments rotate weekly, but the structure never changes. Sunday is different. It's the Lord's Day, the day of resurrection. There's no work except essential tasks, feeding animals, cooking meals, tending the sick. Instead, there's more time for prayer. The Mass on Sunday is longer, more elaborate. The abbot might preach a sermon. There's slightly more time for reading. Slightly better food, perhaps fish, instead of just vegetables and bread. The seasons bring variation too. In winter, the work schedule adjusts because daylight is short. More time for reading in the scriptorium because copywork requires light. Less time for field work because the ground is frozen. The diet changes, more dried foods, less fresh, more time indoors. The cold seeps into everything. Chilblains on fingers and toes. Persistent coughs. The morning bell in December darkness is the hardest moment of the entire year. In spring, the monastery comes alive. The gardens need planting. Fieldwork increases. The days lengthen. More work hours. Less reading time. Fresh food again. Herbs from the garden, early vegetables, eggs from the chickens. The windows can be opened. The air smells of growing things instead of cold stone and smoke. Summer is the busiest season. Hay to be cut and dried. Grain to be harvested. Fruit to be picked and preserved. All hands to the fields, even the copyists. Thomas finds himself wielding a scythe, his scholar's hands blistering. The work is brutal. 10, 12 hours in the sun. But there's a satisfaction in it. The physical exhaustion, the shared labor, the tangible results. Mountains of hay, barns full of grain. The monastery's survival through the next winter depends on these summer months. Autumn brings different work. Threshing the grain, pressing apples for cider, slaughtering pigs and preserving the meat, cutting wood for winter fuel, repairing buildings before the hard weather comes. It's a race against time, against the shortening days. And then winter again. The cycle completes. Another year passed. Within this seasonal rhythm, there's the liturgical calendar, the great feasts that break up the year. Christmas, when the church is ablaze with candles and the chanting goes on for
Keep
hours.
this on peaceful
Easter,
for a minute.
the
I'm
highest
working on
feast,
making a
with its
blaze
preceding
farmer.
40
Blaze
days
farm.
of Lenten austerity. Pentecost,
We can.
the feast of the monastery's patron saint.
It's not that simple.
For this
when you
house,
know
it's St. Benedict's Day, March 21st, when there's special food and the abbot gives gifts to the community. Small things like new stockings or a book. These feasts are islands of brightness in the routine sea. They're anticipated for weeks. They're remembered for weeks
kinda looks like
after.
he
They
goes
give
the
shape
same,
to
like,
time, marking
fashion
progress through the
designers.
year.
Takashi 69's
Years
got, like,
accumulate.
rainbow hair and all.
Thomas came to the monastery at 23. Now he's 30. In another 7 years, he'll be considered a senior
know.
monk, entitled to a slightly softer mattress, a seat closer to the fire. At 40, he might be given an administrative role, cellarer, managing food stores, or librarian, managing the books. At 50, if his eyes hold out, he might still be copying. At 60, lighter duties. At 70, if he lives that long, mostly
More
prayer
Hungarian
and reading,
dish.
the privileges of age.
And
Very good.
Monasteries are full of old men. Life expectancy in medieval Europe is short. Most peasants are lucky to see 50, but monks often live into their 70s or 80s. The regular meals, the absence of warfare
The
or
biggest
accidents,
beefsteak.
the relatively clean water, the medical care in the infirmary, these things add years. The monastery cemetery is
keep
full of
this on
stones,
peaceful
marking
for
monks
a minute.
who
I'm working
died
on
at
making a
75,
blaze farmer.
80,
Blaze
even
farm.
85. Thomas will likely grow old here. He'll see novices arrive,
It's not that
take
simple when
vows,
you know it.
age, die. He'll see abbots come and go. Father William is already old. His successor is probably already in the community, though no one knows who. He'll see fashions in book design change slightly. The Gothic letters will become more elaborate, margins more decorated.
This guy looks
He'll
like
see the
he
monastery
goes to
buildings
the same, like,
expand. There's talk of
fashion
building a new
designers.
chapter house,
Takashi
larger than the
69's
current
got, like,
one.
rainbow hair and all.
But the essential rhythm won't change. The bells, the offices, the work, the meals, the silence.
I don't know, like,
These things are eternal, or as close to eternal as human institutions get.
on
Why?
anything before you grade.
That's the question an outsider might ask. Why live this way? Why
I'll
give
have
up
everything you
family,
have.
property, autonomy, comfort, pleasure? Why spend your life chanting Latin
For the
in a
trade.
cold church? Why copy books that already exist? Why
More
this
Hungarian
rigid schedule,
dish.
this endless repetition?
And
Very
The
good.
answer for Brother Thomas is simple but profound.
Hey.
For God, all of this,
Self-interested.
every bell, every psalm, every copied page
Oh.
is offered to God.
Oh.
The work isn't valuable because it produces results,
The biggest beefsteak.
though it does. The prayer isn't valuable because it changes things, though it might. The value is in the offering itself. The act
keep
of
this
giving your
on
time,
peaceful for
your
a minute.
energy,
I'm working on
your
making a
entire
blaze
life
farmer.
to something
Blaze
beyond
farm.
yourself.
Since
But there's more to it than that.
we can.
The monastic life also shapes the soul.
It's not that simple.
The
when you know
routine, the discipline, the silence. These aren't arbitrary rules. They're technologies of transformation. They break down the ego, the false self, the endless wanting that characterizes ordinary human life. Thomas owns nothing. His habit
Kinda looks
belongs
like
to the
he
monastery.
goes to the same,
His
like,
bed belongs to the monastery.
fashion designers.
Even the quill he uses
Takashi
belongs to
69's
the
got, like,
monastery.
rainbow hair and all.
He has no money, no possessions, no private space. This poverty is freeing. He doesn't worry about losing things because he has nothing to lose. He doesn't envy his neighbors because he has no neighbors to envy. The endless acquisitiveness that drives so much human behavior has been cut off at the root. He has no family, at least not in the ordinary sense.
For the
He
trade.
remembers his parents, his siblings, but dimly. He left them 14
Well,
years
Hungarian
ago when he
dish.
entered the monastery. He's not allowed to visit them.
Very good.
They can visit him occasionally, speaking through a grate in the gatehouse, but these visits
Self-interested.
are rare and brief. The monastery is his family now. The brothers are his brothers, in a deeper sense
The
than
biggest
blood.
beefsteak.
He makes no choices about his day. He doesn't decide when to wake, when to eat, when to work, when to rest.
Keep
The
this
bell
on
decides.
peaceful for
The
a
abbot
minute. I'm working
decides.
on making a
The rule
blaze
decides.
farmer. Blaze
This
farm,
obedience
since-
is also freeing. He doesn't lie
Yeah.
awake at night wondering if he's made the right choices because
that
he hasn't
simple
made
anymore.
any choices. The course is set. He simply walks it. And the silence, the great silence from Compline to Prime, the general silence that pervades all of life here, the absence of idle chatter, of gossip, of argument, of all the verbal noise that
Kinda looks
fills
like he
ordinary life.
goes to the same, like,
In this silence,
fashion
something
designers.
deeper can be heard.
Tekashi
Not
69,
God's voice
like
exactly.
rainbow hair.
Thomas isn't a mystic. He doesn't hear voices, but something, a presence, an attention,
Sean
a
O'Malley.
listening quality in the universe that becomes audible only when everything else goes quiet. Is he
Want
happy?
anything for you,
It's a
Raven.
strange question to ask. Happiness, in the modern sense of constant pleasure and satisfaction, isn't the goal, but contentment, yes. Purpose, yes.
For the trade.
Peace, sometimes. There are days when the routine feels like a
Little
burden,
Hungarian.
when he's tired
dish.
and cold, and his back aches, and he'd give
Very good.
anything for a fire, and a soft bed, and a private room.
Hey.
There are days when he resents
Don't
Brother
push yourself.
Paul for chewing too loud, or Brother John for taking too long at the wash basin.
Oh,
But mostly, there's a sense of rightness,
the biggest
of being
beefsteak.
where he's supposed to be, doing what he's supposed to do. The life makes sense in a way that few lives do. Every action has a
Keep this
place.
on peaceful
Every
for
hour has a
minute. I'm
purpose.
working on making a
There's no
blaze
confusion
farmer.
about meaning,
Blaze farm.
no existential crisis. The path is clear. And there's beauty. The chanting,
simple anymore.
especially at Vespers, when the candlelight flickers and the voices rise together. The illuminated manuscripts with their gold leaf and brilliant colors. The architecture of the church, the soaring columns and vaulted ceiling. The garden in summer, the first snow of winter.
This guy looks like he
Small
goes
beauties,
to the same, like,
noticed all the more intensely
fashion designers.
because so much else is
Tekashi
stripped
69,
away.
he's got, like, rainbow hair.
There's also community. Not friendship exactly. Particular friendships are discouraged because they can breed
Sean
factions and jealousy. But something deeper than friendship, shared purpose, shared struggle.
Not anything for
30
you, Raven.
men walking the same path, helping each other along it. When Thomas is
Don't have
sick,
anything you don't
the
have.
brothers care for him. When he's struggling with a difficult passage in a manuscript, they help him puzzle it
For
out.
the trade.
When he's lost in prayer, they pray beside him. This is
Little
what
Hungarian
monasticism offers,
dish.
a total reorientation of life
Very
around
good.
a single purpose. Everything else, family,
Hey,
possessions, autonomy, even identity, is surrendered. And in that surrender,
Ouch.
paradoxically, a kind of freedom is found. Freedom from the
biggest
tyranny
beefsteak.
of desire. Freedom from the burden of choice. Freedom from the self. Not everyone could live this way.
Keep
Most
this
people
on
can't.
peaceful for a
Thomas
minute.
knows
I'm
he's
working on making
unusual.
a blaze
Something in
farmer.
him
Blaze
resonates with this
farm,
life.
since-
The quietness of it, the order, the depth. Not everyone is
It's not
called
that
to it,
simple and you know
but for those who are, there's nowhere else they'd rather be. The monastery isn't entirely separate from the world, despite its high walls and its rules of enclosure. It's embedded in the social and economic fabric of medieval England. Understanding this requires looking at the
it
monastery
looks
from
like
the
he
outside.
goes to the same, like,
The monastery owns
fashion
land,
designers.
thousands of acres of
Tekashi
farmland,
69, he's
forest,
got rainbow hair.
pasture.
Stuff.
This land is worked by peasants, some free, some serfs bound to the land. They
Sean
farm
O'Malley.
wheat, barley, oats. They tend sheep for wool. They maintain orchards. They pay
Want
rent
anything
to
for
the
you,
monastery in
Raven.
coin or in kind, bushels of grain,
Don't
loads
have
of hay,
anything you don't have.
days of labor. The monastery also employs lay workers, people from the nearby villages who work on the monastery grounds, but aren't monks. Blacksmiths,
Little Hungarian
carpenters,
dish.
masons, servants. They come each
Very
morning,
good.
work their shifts, take their pay, and return home. They see the monks,
Stuff like this.
but don't speak to them much. The monks move in
Ouch.
silence, wrapped in their own world. The monastery provides
biggest
services to the
beefsteak.
surrounding area. The infirmarian treats not just sick monks, but also sick peasants from nearby villages. The monastery's
Keep this
charity,
on peaceful
leftover
for
food
a
from
minute. I'm
meals,
working on making
old
a
clothing,
blaze farmer.
is distributed to the
Blaze farm,
poor
since
who gather at the gate each day.
we can-
The monastery's church is technically open to lay people.
It's not that simple.
Though few come, they have their own parish churches, closer and less intimidating. The monastery's library is the only library for miles. The books here, 300 volumes, an enormous collection, represent the accumulated learning of centuries. Theology, philosophy,
looks like he
history,
goes to the same,
medicine, agricultural
fashion
treatises,
designers,
biblical
Tekashi
commentaries.
6ix9ine,
If a
like
local
rainbow
priest
hair.
needs to consult a text, he comes here. If a scholar from Oxford University needs to see a rare manuscript,
Channel Maui.
he writes to the abbot for permission to visit. The monastery's scriptorium produces books not just for its own use, but for sale. A wealthy baron might commission a psalter.
Anything you don't
A
have.
cathedral might order a gospel book. These commissions bring income, substantial income.
Trade.
A large illuminated manuscript might sell for the equivalent of a knight's
Hungarian
annual income.
dish.
The monastery isn't poor.
It's very
It
good.
has wealth, invested in land, books, buildings,
Hey,
and the skill of its craftsmen.
Don't hurt yourself.
The monastery also has political connections. The abbot is a significant figure, not as powerful as a baron,
The
but
biggest
more powerful
beefsteak.
than a simple knight. He's literate, educated, with connections to other monasteries and to the bishop. He advises
Keep
local
this
lords
peaceful
on legal
for a
matters.
minute. I'm working
He
on making a
mediates
blaze
disputes.
farmer.
He witnesses
Blaze farm,
documents.
since
The monastery's corporate existence,
we
its
can.
permanence across generations, makes it
not
a
that
reliable
simple, you know.
institution in an unstable world. Kings sometimes visit monasteries. Not this one, it's too remote. But the great houses like Westminster or Canterbury, when they do, it's an enormous expense and honor. Months of preparation, special foods,
This guy looks like he
redecoration,
goes to the
gifts
same,
to be
like,
purchased.
fashion
The monastery's
designers,
treasures displayed,
Tekashi
relics
6ix9ine,
of saints,
selling rainbow hair.
ancient manuscripts, jeweled vessels. The king's presence validates the monastery, affirms its
Channel Maui.
importance. So the monastery is in the world, but not of it. To use the biblical
On
phrase,
anything for
it
you,
depends on the world for food, resources, labor,
I'll
but
have
it
anything you don't
maintains a
have.
careful distance. The monks don't go to market. They don't socialize with lay people.
For the trade.
They don't keep up with news and gossip. A war might be raging 30
Well,
miles
Hungarian
away, and they
dish.
barely know it unless it directly threatened them.
Very good.
This separation is intentional. The monastery
hey.
is meant to be a piece of heaven on
Don't hurt
earth,
yourself.
a place where the eternal breaks into time, where prayer is constant, where life is ordered according to divine principles rather than
biggest
human
beefsteak.
whims. To maintain that, the walls must be high and the world must be kept at bay. Let's pull back
Keep
even
this
further.
on peaceful
Let's
for
see
a
this
minute. I'm
monastery not
working on
across
making a
days or
blaze
years,
farmer.
but across
Blaze farm,
centuries.
since
Because this place, these buildings,
we can.
this routine has existed
It's not
for
that
a
simple,
very long
you know.
time and will continue for a very long time more. This particular monastery was founded in 1050, 200 years before Brother Thomas's time. The founder was a nobleman who, on his deathbed, gave his lands to the church to establish a monastic
looks like
community.
he goes to the
12
same,
monks
like,
came from another house
fashion
to start the
designers.
foundation. They lived at first
Tekashi 6ix9ine, selling
in wooden
rainbow hair.
buildings while they raised funds to build in stone. The church was completed in 1080, 30 years to build it. The cloister buildings came next, finished by 1100. The dormitory, the refectory,
Anything for you,
the
Rick.
chapter house,
Go back.
the scriptorium, all built by skilled masons,
anything you don't
using
have.
techniques perfected over centuries. The stones were quarried locally, dressed by
For the
hand,
trade.
fitted together without mortar. They'll stand for another 1,000
Hungarian
years.
dish.
In those 200 years, perhaps
Very good.
500 monks have lived here. They came as young men,
Hey.
took vows, grew old, died, and were buried in the cemetery. Most are forgotten. The stones mark their graves, but not their lives.
The biggest beefsteak.
Only the abbots are remembered, their names recorded in the monastery's cartulary, its book of official records. The routine hasn't changed. The bells rang in 1050 exactly as they ring in 1250. The same offices, the same psalms, the same work. Monks in 1050 stood at the same desks in the scriptorium, forming the same letters, copying the same texts. They ate the same meals, wore the same habits, slept in the same dormitory. If you transported Brother Thomas back 200 years, he'd fit right in. If you transported him forward 200 years to 1450, same thing. Nothing essential would be different. The books in the library have changed slightly. New manuscripts have been added. Old ones have worn out and been replaced. But many books in the library now are the same physical objects that were here in 1050. Thomas sometimes copies from an exemplar that's 150 years old, touched by dozens of hands before his. The land outside has changed more. Forests have been cleared. Fields have been expanded. The village nearest the monastery has grown. But inside these walls, change is measured in centuries, not decades. A new abbot is elected. That's change. A new building is added. That's change. But the routine is eternal. This stability is part of the point. In a world of violence, war, plague, famine, political upheaval, the monastery remains. Kingdoms rise and fall. Kings are crowned and deposed. Armies march past. And through it all, the bells ring. The offices are sung. The work continues. There's something profoundly countercultural about this. The medieval world, like all worlds, values novelty, progress, ambition, change. But the monastery says, no, we will not change, we will not innovate, we will not modernize, we will do what has always been done, because what has always been done is true and good and worth preserving. Of course, this isn't quite accurate. Things do change, very slowly. The style of chanting evolves slightly. The design of books shifts. Administrative practices are refined. But these are minor variations on an unchanging theme. The melody remains the same, even as the ornamentation changes. Brother Thomas is one link in a very long chain. The monk before him, the monk before that, stretching back 200 years. The monk after him, the monk after that, stretching forward into an unknown future. Each individual is temporary, mortal, insignificant, but the chain is eternal. This perspective, the long view, gives a kind of peace. Thomas's individual struggles, his successes and failures, his good days and bad days, they matter in one sense, but not in another. What matters is the continuation, that he shows up, that he does the work, that he passes the tradition to the next generation intact. This is immortality of a kind. Not personal immortality, his name will be forgotten, but institutional immortality. The monastery will continue. Long after he's dead, monks will still be chanting in this church, copying in this scriptorium, eating in this refectory. That continuation is his legacy. We return now to Brother Thomas, lying in his bed in the dormitory. It's approximately 9 p.m. He's been asleep for about 20 minutes. The sleep is deep now, the kind of sleep that comes after physical labor and mental work and hours of chanting. His breathing is slow and regular. Around him, the same, 30 men sleeping in the darkness. Let's stay with him for a while. Let's feel what sleep is like in this place, at this time, in this life. The darkness is absolute. No streetlights, of course. No artificial light of any kind. The window at the end of the dormitory admits no light, because there is no light. The moon is new, the stars are covered by clouds. The darkness is so complete that you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. This is darkness that modern people never experience. The silence is also profound, but not complete. The rain continues on the roof. Somewhere in the room, someone snores softly. The building creaks and settles, as old stone buildings do. A mouse scuttles along the baseboard,
It's not that simple.
but no human sounds, no conversation, no movement, no coughing or shifting. The discipline of silence extends even into sleep. The cold is constant. The temperature in the dormitory is perhaps 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Not freezing, but
So
deeply
like he
cold.
goes to the
Thomas's
same, like,
blanket is thin.
fashion designers.
His habit provides some
Takashi
insulation,
69, he's got,
but
like,
not
rainbow
much.
hair and all that.
His feet, at the end of the bed, farthest from his body heat, are numb. This is just how it is.
Sean O'Malley.
In summer, the room will be warm, sometimes hot. In winter, it's cold. The seasons
anything
pass
for you,
through
Rick.
this room as they pass through everything. What does Thomas dream?
I don't have anything you don't
We
have.
can't know, of course. Medieval people didn't write much about their dreams, and monks wrote even less.
Betrayed.
But we can imagine. Perhaps he dreams of the manuscript he's copying.
Well,
He
Hungarian.
sees the letters
dish.
forming under his hand, but they're wrong,
Yeah.
Very
distorted, turning into strange shapes. Perhaps he
Hey,
dreams
hey.
of the church, the candlelight, the chanting, but the psalms are in a language he doesn't understand.
Oh,
Perhaps he dreams of his childhood, his mother's
biggest
face,
beefsteak.
his father's workshop, memories that surface only in sleep, never permitted during waking hours. Or perhaps he
keep
doesn't
this
dream at
on
all.
peaceful for
Perhaps
a
his
minute. I'm
sleep
working on
is the
making a
deep,
blaze
dreamless
farmer-
sleep of
blaze
exhaustion.
farm since
He's been awake since 2 a.m.
we can.
He's worked for 7 hours, prayed for
It's not
5
that
hours,
simple and you know.
walked, stood, carried, lifted. His body needs rest, and sleep provides it. No dreams, no thoughts, just darkness and stillness, and the slow rebuilding of strength for tomorrow. The hours pass. 10 p.m., 11
Kinda looks
p.m.,
like he goes
midnight.
to the same, like,
The monastery sleeps.
fashion
Even the
designers.
night office,
S-
matins
Takashi
at 2
69, he's got,
a.m.,
like, rainbow
is still
hair and
hours away.
tattoos.
This is the deepest part of the night, the stillest part. If you walk through the monastery now,
Sean O'Malley.
you'd hear nothing but rain and breathing. The church is dark, except for that single
Not
oil
anything
lamp
for you,
near
Rick.
the altar.
Go back.
The cloister is dark. The scriptorium is dark.
I don't have anything. you don't
Everything
have.
sleeps. Outside the monastery walls, the world continues. In the village, peasants sleep in their cottages. In the castle 5 miles away,
Well,
the
Hungarian.
baron's household
dish.
sleeps, except for the guards on the walls.
Very good.
In London, 100 miles south, the city never
Hey,
quite
hey.
sleeps. Taverns
Go
still
ahead.
open, people still moving through streets. But here,
Oh,
in this remote corner of England, in this monastery, time stops.
the biggest beefsteak.
Nothing happens. Nothing needs to happen. This is the pause, the rest, the restoration, before the cycle begins
Keep
again.
this on peaceful
The
for
bell
a
rings
minute.
at
I'm
2
working on
a.m.
making a
Again,
blaze farmer-
the same bell as
blaze
yesterday,
farm
the same
since-
time, the same sound. Brother Thomas wakes again. The same darkness,
It's not
the
that
same
simple,
cold,
you know it.
the same process. He sits up. He stands. He finds his night shoes. He joins the line. He descends the stairs. He enters the church. He takes his place. He chants. The Psalms are different. It's Wednesday now, so Psalms 35 through 42.
It's like he
But the
goes to
process
same, like,
is identical.
fashion
Stand,
designers.
sit,
Takashi
stand,
69, he's got, like,
chant,
rainbow hair
listen, respond. The hour passes. This is perhaps the most important thing to understand about monastic life. It's not about what happens, it's about what doesn't happen. Nothing dramatic, nothing
and
exciting,
for you, Rick.
no plot twists, no character development in the usual sense, just
Don't have anything
repetition,
you don't have.
the same day, over and over, for decades. This sounds boring,
For the
and to
trade.
an outsider, it would be unbearably boring. But to someone
Little
living
Hungarian
it, it's not
dish.
boring. It's deeply satisfying in a
Very
way
good.
that's hard to explain. The repetition creates a kind of freedom. You're not constantly deciding, constantly choosing, constantly wondering if you're doing the right thing. You're just doing what's done. The
The
path is
biggest
clear.
beefsteak.
You walk it. And within the repetition, there are tiny variations. The weather changes. The light changes.
Keep this
Your
on
mood
peaceful
changes.
for a minute. I'm
Today,
working on making a
Thomas
blaze
might notice
farmer.
something
Blaze
he's never
farm
noticed
and-
before. The way a particular psalm sounds when you're tired versus when you're alert.
It's not that simple.
Or
when
the
you
way
know
the
it.
stone floor feels colder on some mornings than others. Or the way Brother Andrew's voice has gotten raspier over the years. These tiny observations are the texture of monastic life. Not big events, but small noticing. The quality of attention that comes from doing the same thing over
looks
and
like
over
he
until
goes to
you
the
see
same,
it
like,
with complete clarity.
fashion designers.
After matins,
Takashi
Thomas
Sensei,
returns
like
to bed.
rainbow hair and
2 more hours of sleep. Then Lords at 4:30 a.m. Then Prime at 5 a.m. Then morning
Shadow
work
Valley.
in the scriptorium. Then terce at 9 a.m. Then more work. Then sext at
I don't
noon.
have anything for
Then
you.
dinner. Then
Okay.
afternoon work. Then none at 3:30 p.m.
I don't
Then
have anything
evening
you don't
work.
have.
Then vespers at 5 p.m. Then supper. Then reading. Then compline
For the
at
trade.
8 p.m. Then sleep. Tomorrow will be the same.
Little
And the next day.
Hungarian dish.
And the next. For another 7 years,
Yeah,
Very
14
good.
years, 21 years, until he's old or
Hey,
until he
hey.
dies. The same
Don't touch
pattern, endlessly repeated, creating through repetition,
Ouch.
not boredom, but depth. Not sameness, but richness.
The biggest beefsteak.
This is the mystery of monastic time. It's not linear, not progressive. It's circular, cyclical. Each day completes
Keep
and
this
returns.
on peaceful
Each
for a
week
minute.
completes
I'm working
and
on making a
returns.
blaze
Each
farmer.
year completes
Blaze farm
and returns. You're not going anywhere, not in the usual sense. You're going deeper into the
Not that
same
simple when
place,
you know it.
the same moment, the same reality. We've spent 2 hours now with Brother Thomas. We've lived a day in his life, felt what he felt, done what he did. Now, as we prepare to leave him, to return to our own time and our own lives, it's worth asking,
It looks like he
what can we
goes to
learn
the
from
same,
this? Most of
fashion
us can't become
designers.
monks.
like,
We have
Takashi
families,
69, he's got, like,
jobs,
rainbow hair,
commitments.
aesthetics.
We live in a world that's vastly different from 13th century England. We have electricity,
Shadow Valley.
clocks, constant connectivity, endless choices. The monastic life isn't available to us,
Anything for
and
you,
even
really.
if it were,
Go back.
most of us wouldn't choose it. But there are principles
anything
here
you
that
don't have.
translate. Principles about time, about work, about silence, about community,
For the trade.
about purpose. First, the value of routine. Modern life
Hungarian
often prizes
dish.
spontaneity and flexibility. We
Very
keep our
good.
options open. We don't want to be tied down. But the
Hey,
monastic
hey.
routine shows the power of structure. When your day has a clear shape, when you know what you're supposed to be doing at any given moment, there's a freedom in that.
The biggest
You're not
beefsteak.
constantly deciding. You're not paralyzed by choice. You just do the next thing. Second, the value of manual work.
Keep this on
Brother
peaceful
Thomas
for
spends
a minute.
hours
I'm
copying
working on making a
manuscripts,
blaze
splitting
farmer.
wood,
A blaze
doing
farm.
physical labor. He doesn't consider any of this
Yeah.
beneath him. In our culture, we often
Not that
prize
simple when you know
intellectual work over manual work, mental labor over physical labor. But the monastery makes no such distinction. All work is valuable if it's done with attention and offered to God. The split log is as sacred as the copied page. Third, the value of
It
silence,
looks like he
the great
goes to
silence,
same,
the
like,
general silence, the
fashion
absence of
designers.
idle chatter.
Takashi
In our
69, he's
world,
got, like,
we're
rainbow
constantly
hair.
talking, texting, posting, commenting. We fill every silence with noise. But the monastery
Shadow Valley.
shows what happens when you don't. When you're silent for hours, you start to hear things
Not
you
anything
wouldn't
for you,
otherwise
really.
hear.
Go back.
Your own thoughts, your own heart, the presence
Don't have
of
anything
something
you don't have.
beyond yourself. Fourth, the value of community without privacy.
for the
This
tree.
one is difficult. We prize privacy, personal space, alone time.
Hungarian
The
dish.
monastery offers almost none of these. You
It's
sleep
very
in a
good.
room with 30 other people. You eat with them, work
Hey,
with them,
hey.
pray with them.
Don't hurt
You're
yourself.
never alone. But there's a deep companionship in that.
Ouch.
A solidarity that comes from shared struggle. You're not
The
isolated.
biggest beefsteak.
You're not pretending to be self-sufficient. You're visibly, undeniably dependent on others, and they on you.
Keep this
Fifth,
on
the
peaceful
value
for
of limits.
a minute. I'm working on
Thomas
making a
owns
blaze
nothing.
farmer.
He makes no
Blaze
choices
farm
about his
and-
schedule. He doesn't consume entertainment. He doesn't seek pleasure. He lives
not that
within
simple
very
when you
narrow
know it.
boundaries. And paradoxically, those boundaries create freedom. When you're not constantly seeking more, better, different, you can be present to what is. You can find depth in simplicity. Sixth, the value of the long view. Thomas isn't
looks
building
like
a
he
career.
goes to the
He's
same,
not
like,
trying to make a name for
fashion
himself.
designers.
He's not worried about his
Takashi
legacy.
69, he's got, like,
He's
rainbow
one
hair
monk
and all.
in a chain of monks stretching across centuries. His individual contribution is small, but it's part of
O'Malley.
something much larger. This perspective, that you're part of a story that's bigger than you,
I don't-
changes
anything for
how
Rick.
you approach
Go back.
each day. These principles, routine,
I don't have
work,
anything you don't have.
silence, community, limits, long view, are countercultural now, just as they were countercultural in 1250. They go against our instincts for novelty,
Little Hungarian
status,
dish.
autonomy, accumulation. But they
Very
point
good.
towards something important. A different way of being in time.
Hey,
A
hey.
different way of being
Don't hurt
human.
yourself.
It's time to leave Brother Thomas. He's asleep now, deeply asleep,
Oh.
in that dormitory, in that monastery,
The
in
biggest
that England
beefsteak.
that exists only in the past. We've shared one day with him, one Tuesday in December, in the year
Keep
1250.
this on peaceful
Out of the
for
thousands
a
of
minute. I'm
days,
working on making
he'll
a
live
blaze farmer.
7,000
Blaze farm,
if he reaches
please.
70. We've seen one,
We can.
but perhaps that's enough. Perhaps that one
It's
day,
not that simple when
lived
you
with
know it.
attention, understood in its details, tells us everything we need to know. Tomorrow, Wednesday, will be almost identical. Different psalms at the offices, a different chapter from the rule, a different page in his manuscript, but the same structure,
It's
the
'cause it's
same
like he
rhythm,
goes to
the same
like,
bells. And Thursday will be the
designers.
same, and
Takashi
Friday,
69, he's
and
got, like,
Saturday,
rainbow hair and all
and
that
Sunday
stuff.
with its small variations, and then Monday begins the week again.
Sean O'Malley.
Years from now, let's say 15 years, Brother Thomas will still be here. He'll be 45.
Anything for
His
you,
hair
Rick.
will be grey.
Go back.
His hands will show the signs of decades of copywork,
I don't have anything you don't
calluses, ink stains that never wash out completely, slight tremors from all those tiny controlled movements. He'll be a senior monk by then. The novices will
Hungarian
look up to him.
dish.
He might be assigned to teach them the art
Very good.
of copying. He'll still be doing the same work,
Hey,
living the same routine,
don't hurt
but
yourself.
he'll have gone deeper into it. The psalms he chants
Ouch.
will have become part of his bones. He'll know them so thoroughly that he can
The
pray
biggest
them
beefsteak.
while thinking about other things, the words flowing automatically while his mind contemplates their meaning on another level entirely.
Keep this on peaceful
At 60,
for a minute.
if he
I'm
lives
working
that
on
long,
making a blaze
he'll be one of the
farmer.
old
Blaze
monks.
farm.
His back
Please.
will be bent from all those years standing at the copy desk. His eyes will be weak. 40
that
years
simple
of
when
close
you know.
work in variable light take their toll. He'll be assigned lighter duties, perhaps tending the garden, perhaps sitting in the library, available to answer questions from younger monks, perhaps simply praying, which is, after all, the primary work. And eventually, he'll die, perhaps in his
It looks
bed,
like he
perhaps in
goes
the
to same,
infirmary.
like,
The brothers will
fashion
gather.
designers.
They'll chant the office of the
Takashi
dead.
69, he's got,
His
like,
body will
rainbow
lie
hair.
in the chapter house for a day, and the monks will file past, paying their respects. Then burial in the cemetery,
O'Malley.
the grave marked with a simple stone. Brother Thomas died, date.
I don't have anything
Pray
you,
for
Rick.
his soul.
Go back.
A year later, Most monks won't remember him well.
Anything you don't have.
The routine continues. New novices arrive. Life goes on. The desk where he worked for 40 years is occupied by a younger monk, copying different manuscripts,
Hungarian
but using the
dish.
same techniques, forming the same letters.
Very good.
This isn't sad. This is the way of things. The
Hey,
individual passes, the community remains, the work continues. The bells ring, the offices are sung. The tradition passes from one
The biggest
generation
beefsteak.
to the next, unbroken. We leave him now. We leave the monastery. We step back across the centuries,
Keep
back
this
to our
on
own
peaceful
time,
for
our own
little
lives.
Hungarian.
We carry with us
dish.
perhaps a little of what we saw, the
Very
peace
good.
of routine, the power of silence, the satisfaction
Hey,
of simple work done well,
Don't hurt yourself.
the comfort of being part of something larger than
Ouch,
ourselves. The monastery still stands, by the way, or ruins of it
The
do.
biggest beefsteak.
In our time, in the 21st century, you can visit the site. The church is roofless, open to the sky. The walls remain
Keep this
covered
on
in
peaceful
ivy.
for a
The
minute.
dormitory
I'm
is
working on
gone.
making a
The
blaze
scriptorium
farm.
is gone,
Blaze farm.
but the foundations are still visible. You can stand where Brother Thomas stood. You can see what he saw,
It's not that simple.
the
when
stone
you know it.
walls, the arched windows, the layout of the cloister. And if you visit at the right time, in the quiet of a December afternoon, with rain falling as it so often falls in England, you might almost hear it, the distant sound of a bell, the echo of chanting.
This guy looks like
30
he
voices
goes
in
to
the
same,
darkness, offering psalms to a
designers,
God who may or may not be
Takashi
listening,
69 selling rainbow
but who is
hair.
addressed nonetheless, has been addressed for centuries, will be addressed perhaps for centuries more, or at least in memory, in the echo of what was. Thank you for spending this time with Brother Thomas.
I don't have
Thank you
anything
for
you.
entering his world,
Go back.
his day, his life. May you rest well.
I don't have anything
May
you
you
don't
wake
have.
refreshed. And may you carry with you something of the peace we found in that cold monastery
For the tree.
on that December Tuesday in the year 1250. This has been Rain and History. Good night.